All right. Hello to the HBAR students 330. We are getting ready for our last, I would say, a last run through the semester, as well as to the end of the year. And we're going to close up with some theoretical lessons in managing talent, as well as some bits and bobs, some ends here that we're going to, we're going to put together. We're going to be some ends, should I say. Okay. All right. So just a bit of an intro to this. We're going to be looking at how to hold a productive meeting. So in other words, like the way that we've been snooping over the past couple of weeks. The whole thing is that over the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to snoop your own shows. That is what is expected of you. In the S1 to snoop your own show and obviously submit that as I have been snooping you for the past couple of weeks. And again, we will now look at a bit more of a broader, obviously, approach to how to analyze shows and how to create shows, but also the different elements of putting them together and what we should be looking at. And then we'll end off with a bit of a class exercise that we'll be doing when I see you virtually. All right. Okay. All right, so productive meetings, let's have a look here. Regular meetings are a vital part of the communication process. We know that. So that's the whole thing when you are meeting with your manager. So be it your program manager or station manager or whatever manager it is, but we're talking specifically with our programming, right? We want to be able to make sure that a productive meeting is something that is defined as you are going to one obviously get something constructive back from your manager, your line manager. Two, you can also find where you are valued at the in terms of like what you need and what any questions that you might have should be answered, what what answers you are expecting from your manager to have that discussion, be able to also know that you have an open forum discussion. So, in other words, you are free to be able to talk to a manager without having to be scared or be threatened or frightened or whatever it is in any way. And also be able to also lend your own ideas to, let's say, something that you would like to do in your shows, in your growth, or whatever it may be, right? At the end of the day, it's got to be fair on both sides as well. And also know that your manager is there to, one, obviously lead you, but also guide you, but also be a safe place for you professionally to grow, right? And be that leader that you need them to be. All right, so the meetings that we do conduct, so like we say, the Snoop meetings, right, or the show meetings that we do have with you, or again as a program manager should have with you, must be both passion and compassion. So yes, they should be short, fast-paced, and positive, as you know. As I've said to you before, what a manager will always do is pick random links. So links from your show that they won't tell you that they're going to be listening to, ideally, so that you don't, let's say, over prepare or prepare, let's say, a great show just for that particular day or that particular show and be on guard. You're supposed to be obviously be on guard for all the time that you are on air. So that's why they pick randomly and they tell you that, oh, okay, listen to the show. We must have a meeting, right? And they'll pick, let's say, three or four links, and let's say crit you based on those four links, not any particular ones. Once again, random ones, because again, you should be performing at any capacity at those particular links or on those particular links. Okay. So they don't have to obviously be in the office environment. We can do that virtually as well. We can actually also have a coffee or whatever it is. But ideally, it is done in obviously the station itself, offices of the programming or station manager or both, right? Sometimes the best meetings do happen. Let's say a little bit where the pressure is off, right? So whenever a constructive meeting with you, maybe talk about the next step of your growth or your place in the station, like in the business strategy as well. Maybe talk to you about a really great big promotion that's going to be happening. That we want obviously you to even feel more comfortable and just again more at ease to share your ideas and share your enthusiasm. So it can happen, like I say, in another spot other than the station itself, right? As I mentioned before. So it can be a challenge to keep meetings interesting. Uh, if you're having a hard time getting started, pick one of the following ideas to energize your meetings. Okay. So we can start by analyzing maybe once listening to the show or those particular parts that we have, picked out those links. We can look at the best segment, all right, and we can look at what worked well, why it worked well, like why is there the big improvement, we can go and analyze it in depth in terms of the approach that you took, the ideas that you elevated, the creativity that was a great risk that you took, that was new, that was fresh, and was obviously, it was. I mean, you succeeded and you gained. It definitely was a win for you at the end of the day, right? But we also want to know that you understand why it worked. Okay, why did it work even better than, let's say, your previous attempts, or let's say other attempts of other segments, in your show or other shows that are being done by other presenters? And of course, at the end of the day, yes, we want to be able to repeat that process of success, so being able to understand that, I paid attention, I did, research more. I was on point with my personality, it really stood out. I enjoyed that moment. I was having a great time. My engagement with the listener was great, or the competition, like I nailed it. Whatever it is that we look at those elements that made that particular link, great. We want to obviously duplicate that and make sure that you build more of that particular process as you move more more forward, in your growth, right? So at the end of that, we'll always say, well, what can we do to do this, better next time, right? Analyze today's weakest segment, okay, or that particular moment or meeting, should I say, weakest moment. So when a patient dies, sometimes the doctor orders an autopsy, right, to determine the cause of death. When a bit dies, so your actual segment, right, it doesn't go so well, the call didn't go well, the interview didn't go well, that particular live read or live promo didn't go well, or even like a particular teaser, whatever it is, right? We've got to look at why it happened. Was it because you weren't paying attention, because you lost interest, because it wasn't constructed obviously correctly? Was the failure maybe because you picked the wrong interviewee, you didn't ask the right questions? If could we repackage that maybe, because there were certain great parts in there that we could maybe use as a podcast, right? Definitely, what are the lessons learned and how would you change? And we would obviously, as your manager, or your line manager, tell you, listen, yeah, like let's fix, like I said, two or three things at a time, right? So was it a bad idea? Let's understand why it is a bad idea, why it's bad planning that you maybe didn't put in enough effort, or again planning into it, or it failed like at the execution. So your planning was great, your prep was great, but the execution was just bad. Okay, for many reasons, as you have come to understand in the past couple of weeks of this semester with your shows, right? Right, several common causes for a bit falling apart. One, for example, you're not having fun, right? So when I'm saying fun, like you're enjoying yourself, you're enjoying your job, you love being on air. It doesn't mean like, so when you are doing, let's say, a serious topic, or in any sector, of life, whatever it may be, mental health, politics, like socioeconomics, whatever it is, but you still like there's passion, like you invested, like that is fun. You're having fun at your job, right? You can also be having fun with the listener, or be having fun because it's a funny segment, or it's a great time that you're having. At the end of the day, you love doing radio, right? So it became mediocre because you weren't having a great time loving your job and being passionate about doing it, right? You didn't prepare as the other one, right? Okay, your preparation was bad. It was maybe non-existent. It was something that maybe you are using your phone, and you're just looking up certain articles during the show and trying to kind of regurgitate that type of thing. Terrible. Like it's a job, so you have to go and prep properly, as you know. So we could exploit moments on air that were great. So, for example, like a great interview, or let's say like a great comedic section, a segment that we can use as a donut promo, right? So something that you'll be like, they'll play obviously the top and the tail, like BMH breakfast, and then they'll play the 30 seconds of something funny that was said, or a great emotional moment, whatever it is. So we'll repurpose that as a donut promo that will play throughout the day, so to promote the show. The other way of obviously repurposing the content is to then try and create something new, quote unquote, like putting it up online for those that did miss it. Not calling it a podcast, please. It's just an element. It's an audio element of us taking this an interview. Excuse me, just for a second, and let me answer this. It is a student. Okay, so apologies just for that. We're just around in the middle also of shows carrying on in the background, but here we are back. Right, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, so as I was saying about just that repeatable moment, and closing up on that repurposing. Should we even try maybe have taken a video component if there was an IG live? That's definitely something I love doing. So, for example, obviously, like while I have a great interview, that I will run an IG live, but then I'll repurpose that particular video. I'll cut the video. I'll obviously download it from, let's say, Instagram, right? Or we can run it on TikTok. Download the video, and then what I would do is I would separate that. I would just convert that video to audio, and I would then cut and edit that and post that as a great podcast itself, because then it's fresh, new. It's stuff that happens behind the scenes while we're not on air and stuff. So there's many things that we can actually go and do about maybe taking this and making it a repeatable moment. And also just note that that means different things as well. Okay, various options here, not just one option. Okay, building character equity. So, what one thing from today's show could enhance your character, your role, or your position of the show of a personality? You, right? Okay, and how do we do that? What can you do to take advantage of that? So, you would, let's say, look at, for example, your show, and you'd be like, okay, great. These aspects of myself are really shining through. Like I like the way that I have a strong opinion, and it's a fair opinion. It's a great I create a great, a space, and a, like I say, a platform area for conversation to happen. I was great with that particular, I am great with speaking to people. That interview ran really well, got great, like a great response, whatever it is. Or I am very empathetic, or I'm very passionate, or I'm very, like, definitely like someone that has a magnetic personality, and it was showcased with me interviewing the president, for example. I don't know, right? And we want to be able to take that and make it a transferable skill to, let's say, other aspects of how you conduct yourself as a personality, either on air, off air, or online, right? Okay. Leftovers are also delicious. Let's see. What was planned that didn't air because we might have had time constraints? So we might have over prepped, and maybe, let's say, an interview was really going well, right? And so someone that obviously, if you're preparing a show and you know that, let's say, this particular interview could go really, really well. And I've only maybe given it maybe 20 minutes, I'm saying, of the clock. I'm saying, so 20 minutes or two links. If it's going really well and we're getting some great, let's say, interaction from listeners, or again, like I say, online, because I like to run the interviews, like I said, on IG Live or whatever it is, then why not just carry it on for another, like, let's say, another length, just because people want to, and there is more stuff to cover. And so then, let's say, there might be an element that was a standalone, or maybe an interview. You might have had to kind of leave that out. I'm saying a pre-recorded interview that maybe you can play in the next show. You could have moved that over. So it could be an option like that, right? Is it still relevant? Of course, we have to ask now. Let's say if we did a pre-recorded piece, like, and maybe it was one of those, it was street boxes, um, that we could maybe play in tomorrow's show. Then why not, let's say, use it for tomorrow? Okay, it's a great exercise to teach the art of turning minor topics also into something special. Okay, as well. So maybe we did a little bit of a poll, right? And we did it as part of a feature, but we saw that the response was really great and stuff. So we decided, okay, maybe 2 days later, we're going to plan a really great, let's say, elevation of this particular poll that we received, great interaction of, and was proven for us to be a great piece to continue and grow. Okay, and like I say, kind of elevate and make it a greater capacity within a forthcoming show, right? Competitive analysis. So let's say like what are our competitors doing when looking at a show, looking at let's say shows that obviously are rivals to it on other stations as well, but also at the same time, perhaps more so considering what is happening on other shows in the show on the station itself as well, and having a look at let's say not really copying, not copying and pasting another competitor, but just knowing that they if they are pushing boundaries, then best we also are not sitting like at the back of the obviously at the back of the pack, right? How are you fitting listeners' lifestyles in, right? Their listeners' lifestyles that because if it's a competitor, 10 to 1, your listener demographic is probably around about the same. It's there's some kind of bridging that comes in between the two stations, your station and another station, right? What segments are effective and why? What can we learn from our competitors? Acknowledging competitive strengths is not a sign of fear of weakness, but definitely courage and confidence because you are ready to hear what they got to say or what they are busy doing so that you can also rise up to the occasion, right? Okay, audience analysis, right? So obviously this is rewarding and fun. We avoid discussing the show and talk only about the audience, right? What is happening in their everyday lives. We just do a little bit of a check-in again to see whether our composite listener is on track. Obviously how they are reacting to the world around them currently, while we are busy creating our shows and at any particular time of the year, whatever it may be, right? Okay. What worries them, excites them, motivates them, angers them, what causes them to lose sleep at night, and what television shows are they maybe watching, magazines, blogs, websites, are they really gravitating to TikTok accounts that really are something that they're very very keen on, they're very big fans of that type of stuff. How are they spending their spare time this week? This particular week. Let's look at because we're now analyzing this particular week, this particular show, this particular snoop session, quote unquote, right? And seeing where you can grow. All right. Capturing the moment every day. There is one lead story. Okay. How will that event be reflected tomorrow? And how can you make use of it to connect with your listeners? Can it fit into established features, or does it maybe perhaps lend itself to being a standalone feature, right? So if we look at today, I mean, let's say, so let's say right now, let's say rugby is obviously a lead story for us because it's a World Cup. So if we're looking at sports, right now, obviously, in terms of, let's say current affairs, definitely the whole things of our re-election of the ANC and obviously subsidiary parties that might be obviously the competitors like the EFF, perhaps maybe the DA, the Action SA, see what maybe they are doing. But obviously the massive obviously pressure on the ANC by labor unions that I read this morning or read yesterday morning, labor unions are putting them literally through the ringer, saying that we won't actually vote for the ANC unless you do this, this, and this, and this according to the labor unions, demands, right? For example, that is definitely, something that is a lead story. But we can go look at, let's say, for example, I mean, I think it was now, yeah, it was now. Let's say Beyonce's birthday, the way that she celebrated and I was wondering what she was wearing. I was like, what is this? But then she was wearing a bee costume, and I thought, oh, okay, Queen Bee. But obviously, not. I'm not slow. It looked weird. Like at first, I thought it was some kind of like devilish look, but then I thought, oh, that looks very cool. And then it was quite a great performance, and it was obviously quite a great thing to celebrate. Beyonce's B Day. Now, could be brought into that's a good lead entertainment story. Or that I think it's Minnie Dlamini is hosting something called the Miss World South Africa pageant, right? So I'm guessing I didn't read further. I just obviously the big news was Minnie Dlamini being the host of that, right? As I'm guessing that they are gonna run people like new obviously beauty queens to possibly go and maybe I don't know participate in this world. For me, it was absurd. It's just weird. It's a weird name. Anyway, um, but okay, that could be a lead story. All right, then we could turn something into that tomorrow. We could definitely talk to Minnie, and she can clear that up for us. Definitely talk maybe to some contestants if they do have any. They obviously must have, if they've mentioned obviously the host. And so, like I say, we can go and, like I say, capture a moment for what might be a good conversational topic for tomorrow. Great big lead story, right? Explore your personality roles. So if you are in a team, like let's make sure that we are maximizing the various roles that are being played or like being held within the show itself. This also includes, let's say, when you do include a contributor, and maybe a guest contributor or an interviewee that you invite to the studio. You might have like a band, like a band playing, whatever it may be. So let's say let's call them I don't know, erratic. Let's go erratic contributors, right? That go in and out. But obviously we are looking at our own team. If there is more than one person, right? How can this enhance the character of their personalities by seeing how each person that is chosen to be on the show adds, let's say, value to the listener's life at the end of the day, and adds value to the dynamic of the synergy of that show. So shape each story into a list of possibilities and continue to explore it till it becomes actual content. Right. Okay. Interaction, right. So explore new ways to invite the audience. Definitely. Are we going to use telephone calls, emails, text messages, social media, the website, or all of the above, depending on what it is that you are wanting to share, right? Maybe pre-promote, definitely post-promote, or like I say, current promote, right? So while it is happening live, you might as well do something around that as well, making sure that you do understand your digital calendar, your timetable, and that you do match out what makes logical sense, right? Don't over post, right? Because don't over post if there's nothing to post, right? Make sure that obviously those type of that calendar includes enough promotional generic, like I'm saying, promotional generic show. Let's say show promotions, show posts, right? But also like definitely when you're focusing on, like teasers for a guest that you're having, or you want to cover like something that's happening at a live broadcast, or like a band that's playing in the studio, as I mentioned before, or whatever it is you want to run. Let's say a post IG live, personal one-on-one with, let's say, you and listeners, depending on what it is that, let's say, happen on the show. I don't know, right? Okay. All right. Okay, guests. Pick a topic and find a guest, expert, celebrity, character, any expert professional from different perspectives. Definitely that we want to add to the show. That's why we have a guest, right? To make sure that because they're going to bring something, they must bring something of relevance to why are they there? Why are they there? Why are they today? We're not randomly just talking to someone, but we're talking to someone because there's a reason to talk to that person right now. And we picked them particularly because they are our hopefully our best choice to make sure that this particular part of our story that we are telling in that particular point of the show is told properly. Right. Okay. What questions do you want to make sure you are going to ask to make that a memorable piece, something that is important to listeners, something that makes an impact, something that is informative, educative, or interactive in any point, or any one of the above, or all above? Prepare for guests to draw more out of them and listen to their comments and allow yourself to be spontaneous. So the pre interview, so the pre prep interview with the guest, so that they know their train of thought, to test them also to see whether or not, like, so this is before they go on air. Somewhere in your prepping and planning process, you must have a conversation with this person so you can see whether one, they are great on air, like I said, or two, they do understand the train of thought. You guys can together, let's say, clean up questions that are irrelevant. You can sum up a lot of information that might be better for an intro piece, and not something that's inclusive of the actual interview, because it just kind of wastes time, that type of thing, right? Okay. And it's also, it's professional etiquette, right, of you, like as a professional, to go and do this type of process, to be like that. This is a professional broadcaster. They're looking after and now invested in this particular person, and obviously the quality of the outcome for that listener, right? Okay, of the show, for themselves, I'm saying, and for the listener. The one thing. What was that one thing that you'll do tomorrow that's going to cause the listener to? Well, I mean, right now I think it's. I think that is that in there? Well, listen longer. Put that in there. Listen, listen, listen. My spelling. Listen longer and uh, listen. Uh, the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow. Right. The day after tomorrow. Put that there. Get a little bit smaller. Let's see what's going on. Put that a little bit there. There we go. Yeah, what is that one thing, man? What is one thing? So that you'll do tomorrow to cause listeners to listen longer and obviously listen the day after tomorrow, right? That kind of cooler effect. Make sure that when you're looking at the show and you're saying, let me look at the show and look at the prep. Okay, is there a boring part in here? Right? It might be one thing. It should be many things without the show, but definitely that one thing that is going to be that water cooler effect. Like I said, it's the kind of great moment within your show itself. They're going to be like, okay, cool, 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 cool. Like, I have to listen to this person. Like, I'm going to make it part of my lifestyle. I'm going to make it a habit. I'm going to tune in. I got something that I wasn't expecting, which is a great time. Right. Again, production values, looking at, let's say, all the pieces that you have used, pre-recorded pieces, edited pieces, voice notes, voxes, whatever it is. If you are creating your own imaging for whatever it is, features, then make sure that obviously that editing is sound and correct. And if you are, again, you're getting it off different sites, make sure that it is a high resolution, or it's clear, or using a song or whatever it may be. Right, this stuff must be elevated. Right? The production values must be on point. Nothing that you do must be less than great. Okay, great or good, good or great quality. Okay. All right. And what needs to be retired as well? Like if we look at, let's say features. So now, you're going to say to me, it's not really done, right? Okay. I don't know why these things are being cut off. I just want to see what I'm doing. Hold on a second. Uh, nope, that thing is cut off. All right, I'll finish that sentence in a second. I apologize for that. I don't know where that went. Okay, all right. Okay, anyway, so let's just look here. Okay, review every piece again. Okay, so with features, a going rule is, let's say, to have a feature, even if it works great, it's great, and let's say it's not sponsored. Let's talk about non-sponsored features that you are running. They must run for 3 months, and you must actually cut them. They must go to the grave, right? If they are really great, you can bring them back in a year's time or whatever it is, but you want to be able to know that you are refreshing your shows, even from, let's say, a feature point of view. Definitely, right? Okay. If it is sponsored, well, I mean, the thing is that you are going to have to, and you will continue for as long as the contract is signed up with the client, right? That's a different story altogether. Okay. All right, information elements, and I'll just complete this now. So spend an entire meeting creating one new information element targeted to specific audiences' interests. So, let's look at like how to create, produce, and deliver the content. Definitely. So, kind of just looking at other way that we have bit construction, and you'll see what bit construction means as well. I think it's later in this particular. I think it's in this lesson. How will it be reliable, timely, updated, useful, repeatable, and then shareable? Right. So we're going to look at those particular content pieces that we do, or want to put together. Right. Okay. And like I say, as new and great, kind of immersive content that you're putting together. How should it be promoted and introduced? You may never use the elements on air, but the process of of let's say, let's see, of using it can be used on another platform. Right, platform. Right. Okay. So there. Yeah. Right. Let's go to the note. Oh, sorry. There. Looking at, let's say, planning for a promotion. Okay. So again, looking at these, we are looking at productive meetings, and again, promotions are part of what we do. Okay. So what events are coming up? Right. we have a obviously we have event calendars that are obviously they created at a much higher level. So in terms of I'm saying mid-level to senior management will create these like I said these event calendars that the station will then obviously add on throughout the year and whatever his time is or whatever it is. But we do we pre-plan for anything that does come along that calendar, right? That's how we have we yes as a radio host on your own show, you do have obviously a large sense of being planning day to day or week to week, right? But at the same time, you also have to have your own kind of insight and foresight, should I say, for example, let's say like Rage. Rage is happening in December, right? I want to make sure that, let's say, and I have made sure that I have got media passes that I can talk to everybody, like upstairs, downstairs, in stairs, whatever it is, right? So I have made sure that I have got this media passes now. It's only September, right? But it's happening in December, and I know that I'm going to use that content on air, right? Okay. I can also partner up with them throughout the next couple of months. I can have the station partner up with as a piggyback. We could do a live broadcast at Rage. It'll be quite nice, and I think they'll invite that. But also, it brings in revenue at the end of the day, right? But also, as me as a if I'm a presenter of the show, I could be presenting my show there as well. Okay, there's a possibility. All right. Anyway, so what events are coming up? Think big. Over a century ago, Gustave Le Bon wrote 100 petty crimes or petty accidents will not strike the imagination of crowds in the least, whereas a single great crime or a single great accident will profoundly impress them, even though the results will be infinitely less disastrous than the 100 small accidents put together. Right, to illustrate, imagine the reaction to a single event like 9/11. Right, so we always like, yes, it's not, don't be that person that says, oh, okay, 9/11 was like, it wasn't a be all and end all. Like we suffer all around the world. We do, yes, and many things, tragic things do happen. But it was, it was it was a travesty, man. Never mind a tragic event. It was something else. Never see, hopefully, never see that again. In our lifetime, right? And whenever 9/11 does come around, like the America definitely, obviously, we know that they are and celebrate that and kind of in remembrance or whatever it is and do what they need to do. But it also reminds us that as a world, we have to have some kind of compassion to the 9/11. There were also it wasn't just Americans there. There were other people from other countries that lived in America that were killed in those plane crashes that didn't only happen at the World Trade Center, obviously at I think it was the Pentagon, and obviously there was two other flights as well. It doesn't matter, right? The thing is that we're like as a world, we need to be like a compassionate, empathetic human species, right? Okay. And so the thing is that we would like to obviously celebrate, those, like the firefighters and all those people and the policemen that went out and and saved a lot of lives that day and also lost their own lives while doing that, and then try and also bring it back to like just kind of the humane factor here. Anyway, it's great. It's an obvious, let's say, option here. Here we have a ton of our own historical events that we can obviously piggyback on and also kind of elevate once again to something that is important and interesting and valuable to our listeners' lives. In three meetings, if three meetings are scheduled per week, those 15 meeting topics alone will take you through a full 5 weeks. Recycle the meetings regularly and mix them with other styles to keep it fresh, the different types of. Okay, so just understanding in terms of like your when we're talking about the meetings, don't only let's say talk about promotions, talk about let's say content, talk about let's say your own let's say growth as a presenter, mix and match your departments, putting themselves into more familiarity with different people and in connection with different people that work under the same roof as you. Um, and so again, remember you are learning about management in radio. Using air checks in a meeting. Okay, so if meetings are boring, air check meetings are agonizing, right? It is. No matter how long you've been doing this, man. I'm saying as a presenter, like going in for like a Snoop session is it's just one of those things, right? For the most part, try to avoid formal air check reviews as a manager. Do use air checks as an integral part of being able to review and grow your on-air talent. But make sure that obviously that the focus areas are not overlooked. Okay. So it can help you discover how a segment sounds instead of relying on how it felt during your own performance, as let's say from the presenter's side, right? So even when you're doing it with me, as you have been doing it, like look at the positive of what is happening, right? You're going to get a lot of hard crit. That's life. That is definitely the radio life, and it is not. I mean, it is a lot. Not to say that. No, I'm not even going to say that it's a lot harder outside. It's the same. Like it is. It is cold. It is sometimes hard because if you're not doing things right, like your manager's going to tell you straight up there and then because their product at the end of the day is literally falling apart in the smallest ways to the biggest ways. Doesn't matter, right? Okay. Should focus on mistakes. Very important, right? That's what the air check should focus on. We will praise you, like we'll praise you when you do things right, but we want to. Why are we criticizing you? Because we need to fix those things that need fixing. When a segment flopped, it's embarrassing to hear it repeatedly as you are the presenter to hear yourself actually talk too much or talk rubbish or, you know, let's say by mistake have used a swear word or, treated someone like with disrespect or listen with disrespect or you didn't really, use that voice note properly. You didn't put great voice notes on. Well, I can carry on forever, right? As you know. Right, but it mustn't be a waste of time, both your program managers as well as for yourself. Used correctly, on check is an essential tool to stay on track. For best results, set aside 1 day a week for some sort of air check review. If your manager can't do that with you, which they won't be able to do that with you every single week, right? You need to do your own. You need to learn how to snoop your own shows, which is what we're busy getting you to in these next couple of lessons, right? So there are at least three useful methods of successful air check meetings. Right. Okay. Um, so over here, it's an extra link that you can go over look at, right, for yourself on YouTube. Just add it over there. So I want to go to this, right? This schema. This is the way. This is the way that we can do some on-air checks, right? This is the one everybody hates. Everybody hates. Listen carefully to every word, paying close attention to detail, but pick only a handful of segments to analyze. It is brutal as you have also experienced. Yes, I'm sure and it's by my hand. I'm your lecturer, so you know that. Like, listen carefully to everything that is said and how it is said. The schema is useful as a basis for future evaluation and for younger, less experienced personalities, like, for example, yourselves, but should be used less frequently with more experienced shows, right? We don't want to waste time. When you've learned something, you've learned something. You move on, right? Okay. Definitely, we're going to move on when we hear that in a next snoop that you have obviously perfected those things that we've skimmed, we've just completely broken down. The real-time air check. This is a tactic that will allow you to hear the show in a new way. Record the entire show without edits, as you've been doing. Like leave everything, including the commercials. Every member of the show takes a day off to listen to the show in real time as the audience hears it. And have it in the car while running errands, like for yourself during breakfast in the shower. Collect thoughts, notes, and comments for discussion with your manager the next day, which is what you're going to do anyway with me, right? Selective air checks. The tactic produces great results and it's time efficient. Use short, carefully selected audio segments, so random ones, to emphasize key points. Right. We're saying one, two, and three. Why did you do this? Like we said in the previous slides. Why did you do this? Like, what was your thinking behind it? What did you actually want to do? Or you have done it. What are you going to do next? Use it to correct bad habits, confirm progress, or to monitor a new idea. We're nearly done, yeah? Okay, so typical talent problems, lack of preparation, right? So we can hear that on air, obviously. Please, as you know, show prep has to be extensive. It's got to be complete. It's got to be, distinct as well. Like you got to be able to look at what times are allocated there when songs are being played, like which segments must be played. Like when there is something that is pre-recorded, it's going to be played here or this, whatever it may be. It doesn't really matter when the news has to go out, when traffic has to go out. It's all put into the prep, right? Okay, but not only just in terms of structure and the way that you follow things, but also like for you to be pre-prepped and over-prepped for perspective that you want to have on a particular content piece or content pieces that you are going to execute throughout the show. Content that is hard to understand, right? So we want to be able to take content, okay, and we want to make sure that any content matter that we do choose that is relevant to our listener must not be overcomplicated. We will simplify the way that we want to process this information so that it is very palatable to the listener themselves. Listener, listen for long setups, confusing detours in developing a story, poorly developed payoffs, right? So obviously call outs, things like that, right? Things that don't land. We'll be looking at things like that as we have in Crit. Multiple thought sets. So now you've got a link that's got a ton of different things that are going all over the place. And we said, I said to you before, like one thought, one link. Um, and when I said one thought, like whatever you do say, that has got to have a contribution to where you are going with that train of thought as well, right? Each element requires setup, development, payoff, as you know, right? Don't go and throw in more than what is needed in that link, but don't throw in less as well. Okay, but the multiple thought process is confusing. No one's in your brain, man. The thing is that if you have a jumble up brain, like most of us do, right? Like thoughts are everywhere, and they within our brains and our minds itself, they're everywhere all the time, and they're processing at a speed we don't really need to understand, right? But when we are talking to someone and we are trying to convey like a thought process, stuff that is communicative at the end of the day, that must land. It must be simple, it must be conversational, and it must be effective and important, relevant at the end of the day. Emphasizing the wrong material, right? Okay, you can become very bored long before the listener because you listen 100% of the time. Listeners do not. Okay, so even for example, like let's say songs, maybe you've heard it a billion times, but they are only just listening to it or recognizing it or becoming more aware of it right now at any one given time. Okay, that's why you're still playing music, right? I'm saying the particular song. Lack of immediacy. So one radio's advantage is to be able to make sure that we have stuff that is relevant right now, right? So if there's breaking news, take the initiative and put the breaking news into, move segments around, take content out that is unnecessary, get your production obviously done, give yourself enough time and put it out there, right? Losing interest, listen for consistency in promoting upcoming segments and delivering repetitive content with enthusiasm, right? So repetitive content we said is okay only when it is for specifically promotions, advertising, that type of stuff, right? Yeah. So we need that element. Okay. Everything else must not be repeated, as you know why, right? Okay. Because why are we going to repeat the same thought process we've done in a previous thing? Maybe content didn't work in the previous thing. It can carry on, right? Okay. So sloppy placements of elements. Okay. So when personality is careless, listening patterns are disrupted and the expectations are not met. So you've gone and you've teased to something and you've said that it's coming up. You don't actually stick to that kind of planning or that type of time that schedule, whatever it is. It's all over the place. Like you're not paying attention to your time and your construction of the entire show and how it should be delivered, right? Listeners count on content being delivered when they expect it to be delivered. How do they know when it's expected? Because they know either, let's say, news has to happen at top, bottom of the hour, etc., right? Traffic is coming in wherever it is, but also you said that we're going to be chatting to whoever it is, Mini Lamini, right? Okay, at 10 past 7. Why is it 10 to 8 right now? Okay, inflection, and it still hasn't happened. Inflection, right? Listen for unnatural emphasis on words like and, the, and is. Pay attention when a listener says that you sound different in person than you do. Let me just finish that. I see when I did the conversion, then you do on air. Yeah. All right. You do on air. So let me just quickly smooth it up so it's a little bit more understandable. Right. Okay, and we're what's next? We're done with the lesson here. Okay, radio has changed. Yeah, it has changed, and it'll keep changing as more competitors emerge in our market as well. So not only in terms of like radio stations, but definitely every other aspect, podcasts, like digital print, TV, streaming. Every it's like we can carry on forever, right? Okay, we know, right? Our industry has to react creatively and in a homogeneous sound, right? Homogeneous, yeah, homogeneous, yeah, homogeneous. I'm saying homogeneous and I'm making that up, right? Genius, homogeneous. Uh, sound. I must go and find out how that thing's pronounced. Not right now, though. Okay, anyway, with an underlying sameness for market to market, right? So, we got to work on what we know. We know what we know, and what we know we do best, right? Yes, radio companies are syndicating more shows to save costs. Definitely, we know that. We see that definitely in the privatized stations as well. They are cutting people out of the equation. There's a lot of automation that's happening, but it doesn't mean just because it's been done, it's the right thing. You are here to change the industry, to be innovators as media practitioners, and that's what you need to walk in and know that you understand all these aspects, right? And that you need to go in and say, I don't like the way things are being done. I don't, right? And let me first learn how they're being done first, right? That's the big thing, right? Okay, so I can take ownership and I can pivot myself to something a little bit higher where I can maybe change it for the better. The only failure is not achieving your potential. I know it's a chappy paper thing, but it's true, right? Go back to your character profiles that you started way back. I think it was in lesson 22. I'm not too sure, right? So I'm gonna just go back to that you started. Let's do that for just a little bit of you know understanding. Now start the conversation on the Radio 3 WhatsApp group on Call Campus Forum. Fine tune that profile to represent you as an industry professional. Please, this is for your S1, right? Okay, so we're going to do this. Make sure that you've got something to work with. Sorry, I'm going to excuse me, sneeze there. Okay, right. So that this is for S1, it's properly obviously constructed, but we don't dare when I see you in class, right? What we're going to do is we're going to do role playing, right? We are going to have you like certain like obviously like we're going to play any certain show of the ones that we like. I've saved all of them that I've received from I think week 3 or week 2 onwards, right? We're going to play them and then obviously have you start understanding how to play the role I have been playing to crit other shows, right? That is the main aim. Okay. Right. And then we'll also run a bit of an interviewing session as a manager and as you as an applicant to a station. Right. Okay. Um, and see what and you will crit your peers again. That's what we're going to do when obviously when I see you in class. Okay, when I see you in class. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Have a great one. All right, I think I saved that. Let's just see.